So hello tankers, it's been a while since I've put out a World of Tanks video. I've been playing less, but I have managed to put aside a few replays that I wanted to get out. This is one of them, actually two. I'm going to show you in this video. This is a battle in the Skoda T50 Tier 9 Czechoslovakian medium tank autoloader. It's a pretty good matchup for us. You can see most of our team is more the green color and their team's the red color. XVM has it at 58%, which is pretty good. And we have an advantage in top tier heavies, so that's always good. So at the onset, it's looking pretty good. This is a video prior to them Wargaming removing the ability to send messages to the enemy team. So you see some messages now and then in red from the enemy team. You can no longer do that. But at the start of the game, wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go, kind of keeping an eye out. Looks like we have a pretty good force going to the east. So I thought I'd back up the west. The west is a bit tricky. A lot of good players and mediums tend to go there, and if you're not careful, or if I'm not careful, I often get owned. So you see three tanks heading up there. I poke around the corner to see if I can get some shots in it. My team's already putting some good fire in the TVP there. He's going to have a good game. So I poke around and see if I can get some sneaky shots here. TVP's falling back as he reloads. And I didn't have any shots through there. I don't know that valley very well, so I was hoping I'd be able to shoot, but obviously I can't. In the meanwhile, though, I noticed that we've got absolutely no one in the middle of the map. So I decide to stick around the corner. We don't want anyone running through and taking out our arty. And also, if you luck out and can get over here, you can often get one flank or the other in a crossfire. So there I am over on the right, sneaking in. Here I get spotted. They do indeed have two tanks that were working their way up through that center and going to try and get our team, our western flank, into a crossfire. But instead I managed to catch this guerrilla and force him to leave his ally, his 113 ally, alone. So the guerrilla falls back to try and get into cover away from my autoloading. I go ahead and take a reload, so I don't want him to know I'm reloading, so I kind of pretend like I'm moving forward. And as I'm realizing I don't want to jump in front of the guerrilla's gun, I decide instead to help out with taking out this 113. The second shot doesn't take him out, but it does distract him enough so that I think probably who got him? The bat jet took him out. Had one shot left in the gun, so I go ahead and take it on the grill and then wait for my reload. Grill doesn't want me to shoot. He probably figures I have two more shots, so I'm going to shoot at him. So he's paying attention to me. There's no way I'm running out in front of that gun of his. T30 puts a huge shot at him. I think he was about to take a shot, but then our arty, the GW E100, finishes him off, so that's good. So now that the center's clear, I'm free to come around and try and flank these. Now, the enemy's heavies are in a whole lot of trouble. They've got two flanks that they're defending pretty well, but I'm about to come in behind on the third flank and give them a hard time. I catch this T28 in the back, which is good. He's got a lot of tough frontal armor. Put two good rounds in him. Unfortunately, the middle round hit the Conqueror. And when you're behind a group of tanks like that, one good thing to keep in mind is you probably shouldn't hit more than one tank at a time if you can. That you don't want to draw their attention. By hitting the Conqueror, I let him know that I was back there, so he took a shot at me. Fortunately, he missed. Now I get the side of this heavy armored tank destroyer again. Now, if you notice over on the east, our other TVP is kind of doing the same thing. He managed to get around and behind their mediums, so they're now caught in a pincer move. So the east is now falling pretty quick too. So now we've won both the west and the east by basically flanking them. They have this T30 left. I spot him. Well, I didn't spot him, but he shows up on my map. He swings his gun and decides the bat chat's more of concerned, so he goes past me, but after I put one in him, he swings back to me, and does put a pretty hefty shot into me. Now at this stage, I'm realizing that I've done enough damage on their tank destroyers that I've actually completed my last medium tank mission. So I said, there's no way I'm going to run out in front of that Artie and give him a chance to one-shot me. So I just pull out of the way, and my Bat-Chat here finishes him off. And I was pretty darn excited at this point. Skoda finished top on damage. I did manage to put quite a few in, and top on experience, so that was a good game. Managed to pull off a 32,000 credit profit, and with a 5 times experience, got 8,000 experience. But the thing I was really excited about is MT-15. That was my last medium tank mission, and earned to be the T28 concept reward tank. And this is the T28 concept reward tank, T28 HTC. It's a kind of interesting looking tank. It's got a wide gun arc, but no turret. And the armor is really good on it if you use it right. It's got 2 really big weak spots. Both of these ears are weak spots, and it does have some cupolas on top. These 3 cupolas, they're pretty small and hard to hit, but those are weak spots as well. Let's take a look at it in the armor viewer. The angling at the lower plate and the upper plate are pretty good, so that you're going to ricochet anything that's less than 151 millimeters. I've got 224 pen loaded here, and it's showing a ricochet off of it. 203 millimeters on the front. It's angled a little bit, but mostly it's just thick. It's 203 millimeters thick. Here are those weak ears, close to 100 millimeters in spots. The ideal way to take this tank into action is to angle it just under 45, so maybe around 40. And if you can take advantage of the gun depression over a ridge and come around a rock, or possibly around a building, in which case you wouldn't be using the gun elevation. Let's put the gun around there. So I think I want to be angled more about like this. So coming around like this, if there's a wall here that you're that you're hiding around, because of the great gun arc, you can stick the gun around it. You're hiding this ear behind the wall, and the other ears behind the tank. Now you see that a very high penetration gun, it has a chance of going through the front, but it's a pretty small chance, 10%. It's going to be a ricochet off of either of the plates, and the turret is pretty much a bounce unless you have a very high penetrating gun. Now if you can get this over a ridge line and aim down at your opponent, in this case you're hiding the cupolas on the top, you're adding extra angle here, and a little bit of extra angle on the turrets. The sides pretty much a guaranteed absorb, and you really need basically 151 millimeters, 3 times the thickness of the armor, to be able to penetrate either the upper or the lower plate. Otherwise it's going to be an absolute an automatic ricochet. Okay, we can also take a look at the T28 concept reward tank in World of Tanks' new tank comparison feature. If we look at the standard shell damage, you can see the obvious, as you'd expect, the lower tier tanks do less damage. The T28 concept does pretty good damage with each shell compared to even well, through the tier 7s. The tier 8s obviously do more, and the tier 9s would do more than even that. If we take a look at shell penetration, again, it's pretty competitive. It's a little below the Jagdpanther or the AT7. It's above the SU-152, and it's clearly ahead of the tier 6 tank destroyers. The rate of fire, it's it doesn't. That's not its strength. So its DPM is a little bit lower than some of the others, but that's kind of what you expect in a premium. You got 30 degrees in either direction, so it's a 60-degree full arc. That's actually very good for a non-turreted tank destroyer, as you can see, compared to all the other non-turreted tank destroyers. I'm gonna get down into the armor. The hit points are, well, I mean, they're on par with the same tier and the lower tiers, but you take a pretty big jump if you go up tiers. The AT7 has a big, even at tier 7, has a pretty big health advantage over this. Now if we take a look at the hull armor, it has a huge advantage over the lower tiers and even the equal tiers. Even the tier 9 American T30 doesn't compare very well to the armor on this. Mobility, you know, it's not terrible. It's not like the high tier super heavy tanks. It's got a pretty good engine power. So the top speed, you know, it's not awesome, but if you look way over at the tier 9 Tortoise, I mean, it's 16 kilometers an hour faster than the Tortoise and comparable to the T30. So, I mean, it's a hard tank to play. It's got a lot of disadvantages, but if you like a tank with a lot of armor, this can be a lot of fun. All right, so let's get into some gameplay. My first ever game in the T28 HTC concept reward tank. So this game on Tundra, it's a slightly more even matchup than that last battle, although XVM still has us at a 56% win. The concept is tier 7 top tier in this battle, so that's always nice to go in top tier. Both teams have a fair number of greens. They actually look like they have a couple more green players than we do, but you know, so we have several purple players and with more than 25,000 games each, so a little more experience than our team. And I'm going to start off heading for the far west, behind the ridge line, the mountain ridge line over there. Always confuses me. I'm not sure that there's any real strategic value in taking that piece of the map. You're way out in the corner, you're away from everything else, not near any capture points, you can't defend anything from there. But that's where almost always there's a fair amount of heavy tanks going there, maybe some heavily armored tank destroyers. So just meeting those tanks is what the value is, I guess, of going there. The hill, on the other hand, on the eastern side, that's where the mediums and faster tanks go. The strategic value of that location is clear. If you take that spot, you can get clean shots across half the map. So that's quite a bit of value. So while I'm not as slowest tank on the map or in the game, you certainly, the rest of my team has gotten to the battle before I have, and they're actually exchanging fire with enemy tanks, and I'm still trundling my way there. You can see this enemy tank destroyer is putting himself into a corner, trying to use his armor well, and we got a brave Lux there that didn't fare too well. Was one shot by that big gun on the tank destroyer. So I come around the corner here. I'm trying to keep those ears behind the rocks so that he can't shoot my weak spots. Not sure if he knows where the weak spots are on my tank. That's another advantage of this tank. There not being a lot of these tanks on the battlefield. A lot of people don't know where to shoot them. But he's in a lot of trouble now and panicking, trying to figure out if he can angle his armor against my gun. But I'm pretty much going to finish him off right here. And the rate of fire on this tank's not terrible. So I can get a turn and get this guy in line and take him out in time. So that pretty much finishes off the far west here. I'm going to just go straight ahead. I don't have enough speed to finesse, do a turnaround, and try and flank from another direction. So really my only choice is to head straight at the enemies. Now normally when you take this flank, I'm always a little concerned about pushing through because now I'm moving into a spot where there's absolutely no cover. And very often enemies will hang up to the north there, and like that Hellcat is, and wait for people to push around. And sure enough, he gets a shot into my side. I do angle my tank towards him and pull back so I can get a shot at him. And you see his next shot bounces off of my upper plate. After putting one into him, my team manages to finish him off. I get one into this Panzer IV. He's firing high explosive. His first one was absorbed by my tracks because I was turned to the Hellcat, but the second one did manage to do a little damage off the front of my tank. And that's basically it. Just over a 4-minute game. I spent probably half of that just driving to the first piece of the battle. So taking a look at the post-game stats, you see we got a second class and finished TD1 for being in the top 3 players on our team by experience. And in fact, we finished second in experience as well as second in damage. We fired 7 shots, hit all 7, only penetrated 6 of them. Of course, we were fairly close, so that's not too surprising. I did a total damage of 1,600, blocked 630 damage. I think we had 2 ricochets, maybe well, and we absorbed the high explosive. Spotted 1 enemy vehicle, destroyed 2. We managed to make a 20,000 credit profit. This tank doesn't get any credit multiplier for being a premium since it's a reward tank. You do get the ability to train crews from the same country and the same type of tank, but no credit bonus. And then experience, was a 5 times event, so base experience of 1124, not bad, and with the 5 times and the bonus for the premium as well as a mission completion, got just over 6,000 experience. So that was my first game in the TD25, as well as the game that in the Skoda that earned me the tank. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.